All right, Jim, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Heather. Good evening and welcome to the Town of Henrietta Planning Board meeting on Tuesday, November 10th, 2020. Members present are Patricia Brill, Craig Eckert, Stephen McIntyre, Lawrence Neal, Rick Page, and Mr. Borkowski. Are you online at all? So Mr. Borkowski is absent this evening. First item on the agenda will be the meeting minutes from the October 27th, 2020 Planning Board meeting. Does the board have any comments or questions regarding those minutes?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Page. Do we have a sufficient second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Eckert. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Minutes are approved. Next item on the agenda, application number 20011, Elliott Single Family Home for final site plan approval of a single family home located at 345 River Meadow Drive in an R115 zoned district. Who is here representing the applicant, please? May you step forward. I'll have you sign in, I believe, on the sheet there. Thank you. Get your name, please.
David Elliott.
Okay, thank you. The floor is yours to describe your project, and if you've got, I don't know, do you have any drawings or anything that you're bringing this evening, or no?
Everyone should have.
We do, okay, very good.
Have drawings. Pretty straightforward. Single family, single story ranch style house. 142, approximately 142 square feet. With a detached garage.
Did you say 142?
I'm sorry, 1,042. 140, yeah, about the size of a closet, you know. Pretty straightforward. I don't know what other details you want. It's going to have a vaulted ceiling in the main rooms, just regular 412 pitch, vinyl siding, asphalt roof. Pretty straightforward house.
And what is the square footage of the garage piece?
616
616 on the plans.
16, yeah.
Okay. Okay, the board will recognize Mr. Eckert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chair, I'm sorry, yes.
The, not a lot of slope here at all.
I'm sorry?
There's not a lot of slope on this project. Is this
No, sir, it
site
slopes from back to front slightly, as you can see by the topo.
by 2 feet?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not hilly. It's pretty much the way all the lots are down there. They're pretty, you know, river basin.
Right. Are we, Chris, were we talking about getting a overview of the detached garage requirement? Is that a conversation that I heard earlier, or is that different?
You mean as far as what?
The allowable detached garage in this zone?
Yeah, I mean, my understanding from the code that it is an allowable use.
Okay,
Detached, instead of attached, a detached garage is
Yeah.
acceptable.
okay. I know we received some comments from neighbors about the upkeep of the property and the concept of just using this as a construct. Is this meant to be a single family or meant to be a construction site or storage for construction equipment?
No, it's a single family home. It's you know, and I'm going to say this on the record. I have heard this more times than I want to about upkeep. I have one rental property on River Meadow. Totally this year, I've put about $6,000 in upkeep in that house, taking trees down, redoing the bathrooms. I upkeep, and I defy anyone on that street that has put as much money into their house as I have in the last 6 years. I've put about $60,000 into a house that I know I paid $42,000 for. But if you could see the before and after pictures, you'd see where every dime went. And I am sick to death of people telling me I don't upkeep my house. My lawn is mowed, my house is painted, I just put all new windows in. and I take it as a personal affront. I really do. It's an insult.
Okay, well, sir, thank you. I appreciate the correspondence on that and the validity to us as far as understanding from what we're hearing from complaints. I'm not sure that it also referred to, I didn't take it separately as the other property is just this property. Did anybody else read that
Yeah,
different?
this last one was an affront to my personal house.
Just this property. So as far as I'm just referring to this
Yeah.
property.
No, we've gone through this. We went through this as a try to get a variance. And the neighbors, and I'm going to give you some background on this. The gentleman to the east, he wanted to buy that property. He was using that property like his own for many years. I get that. I had no idea he had any kind of agreement with 2 owners ago that he had, I guess, a verbal agreement to have first refusal. But that was 2 owners ago. The property sold to someone else without his knowledge, and I bought it from the next owner. I had to come down here and find out who owned the property, go to his house. He lives off the East Henrietta Road. I went to his house. Would you like to sell the property? He said, sure. He gave me a price, $9,000. I said, that sounds fine to me. And about a week later, we signed the paperwork on it. And then all of a sudden, I'm the bad guy, And so these guys, the people on either side, have started a vendetta, turned me into a hobby, trying to fight me every turn. It's all I can say is I bought the property arm's length, fair and square, my property. He asked me if I would sell it to him, and by his own admission, he lowballed me. I said, I don't want to sell it. And I gave him a price. I figured out what it's worth to me, and I gave him a price. He said, well, that's crazy. And I said, okay, that's fine. So I just wanted to give you an idea of where all this venom is coming from.
And thank you. Again, I appreciate that additional correspondence and communication on that. I don't know from the letter who that came from. So
Jim Pawerda.
Yeah, I don't know. But,
Yeah.
So even giving
He's
me
the other side.
Okay, so I'm just giving you a comment that we received.
I read it.
I did go onto the satellite imagery and I saw nothing but grass on this property for at least the last 13 years that I went back quickly. Didn't look to be anything stored there, anything parked there.
No.
I just saw grass that was there. The main concerns that I have about any development in this area is River Meadow Drive, from my history, albeit, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, this subdivision was put in a long time ago. It was meant to be
1928.
Yeah, it was meant to be like summer homes for the city to, go live off the river.
Fishing camps.
Right.
Yeah.
And weren't meant to be full-time residences, that you don't have a full-time residence, but a lot of the full-time residents that were there may not have already been built to code either. They went in through a different system. Steve, you were probably part of this too. You've got some history for that as well. The drainage back here is terrible. Not only are you next to the river, there just wasn't a whole lot of drainage done to this project to begin with.
I know when they put in the preserve, which is right behind us.
Yep.
That they had to bring in a lot of topsoil to raise
that
that up, because that
multi-acre
was
pond.
swamp at one time.
Right, and that multi-acre pond that's there.
Yeah.
And then that abuts to the wetland that comes close to this property. I don't know how far you are to the.
Right
I
back
know
and
you
right
come
up
up
to
to the
it.
back of the cul-de-sac, but remember those double lots that are kind of landlocked,
Mm-hmm.
that are off of Wellington, I think it is?
That's correct.
So that's that section there, that can never be built just because it's so wet back there in the wetland that's
Yeah.
there. This, we have a lot of drainage concerns. We get a lot of complaints about drainage up and down this road on a regular basis, and there isn't anything we can do about it.
Yeah.
So that's, I do see the building. I saw that the one comment about building it above the floodplain level.
Right, so the property is in a 100-year floodplain, so obviously structure has to be 2 foot
2
above.
feet above. Yeah.
Right, probably no basement, but that's something you can work out with the building department.
Yeah, I talked to the engineer at length about flood relief, events on the, if we do decide to do a block wall foundation. Right now in my head, I have it on piers. I don't know which way, where we're going to end up. It's going to be a while before we're ready to break ground anyway.
Yeah, and that's okay. We don't need to know right away.
Sure.
It's something when you go for the building permit,
Yeah.
that'll have to be addressed.
And that goes for the house, but obviously not the accessory structure, because
Correct.
that's lower.
Right.
So that it may flood
Yeah.
at that height.
He suggested, the engineer told me that it wasn't required, but he suggested flood relief on the garage.
Okay,
He put it about 6 inches above the 100-year floodplain, which is, still out of the 100-year.
okay. Okay, no, then, thank you. Again, I didn't mean to elicit, any, anger from you. I apologize that
No,
you're dealing with that
it's
with your
just that
neighbors.
this has been going on. I got bought the property early in the spring, probably closed on it in April or something like that. Applied for my permit, received a permit. And then after I had bought $5,000 worth of material, my permit was pulled because the neighbors started complaining. So you can imagine, I have a little bit of a sore spot, that these guys are just constantly grinding away at me. So I apologize if I appeared angry, but I am a little put back,
No, and I appreciate that emotion. It does help us to understand where some of this is coming from. We just see a piece of paper and what it says on it, and we're just trying to react to that as well. So,
Sure, no, I get
okay.
it.
So that was good. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
You're welcome, Mr. Eckert. The chair will recognize Mr. McIntyre.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the lot we're talking about, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. It's a very, very, very small lot.
It is, actually, it's exactly the same size as most of the lots in the neighborhood.
On either side of the,
Well, the one on
Parcel.
one side is a double lot. But when the division was first, when everything was divided up at first, they were all 50 feet by 140 feet. And that's exactly what that lot is.
just to kind of.
My
reassure-
lot is,
I know
my
you-
lot's the same.
I know you're a little upset with the neighbors complaining about you're wanting to build on this particular lot, but that's not unusual. In the past, we've had
Oh, sure, yeah.
applications where people have had these types of lots and wanted to build large structures on it. And of course, the neighborhood just kind of went berserk
Yeah,
on it.
no, we are stretching the limit as far as, we're right up to it, as far as the 25% limit on the lot.
Mhm.
Keeping in mind that I originally wanted to build just the garage for my personal use, because it is right across the street from my house. And the garage was going to be 660 square feet, much smaller than what's going on in there now. But because of the insistence, and the furor raised over this thing, now it's a house and a garage.
You first went to the zoning board of appeals to get a garage placed on this property,
Yes, sir.
and that was denied.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I'm seeing wedding pictures or something.
You then came up with this plan to put a residence
Well,
on that property.
most of the comments I heard from the neighbors was it would be different if you built a house. And, and I said, okay. I have a house in Naples that I've had for many years. It's rented now, big Victorian down there. And I had planned on selling it and buying another income property closer, because it's easier to maintain. And I thought, well, what's the point? I mean, if I'm going to sell the house, I might as well sell the house and build the house that I want here.
Mhm.
It's the same deal, except it take me longer.
Will this be a rental property?
What I have in my head is that eventually, because my house that I'm in now is a 2-story house, and I have literally was at the doctor yesterday about my back, and then, I'm kind of, my body's kind of given up after 45 years of construction. And I can see myself not being able to get up and down stairs eventually. But for the immediate future, it's more going to be like a guest house. When my son comes into town with his wife and kids, I think I can get it built fairly cheaply, so it's not going to be like a big expense for me. That's what I have planned. The idea, literally, I'm not going to hide it from you. The idea is for me to have someplace, a shop to work in my retirement, just to screw around. I went to college to be a furniture designer. I want to do that again. I want a shop. That's the idea. You know, that was the idea of the original barn. Not a business, just a hobby shop. You know, and this is the best of both worlds. I get this little house and I get a shop to work in.
The one question I have about the garage in and of itself is.
Yes, sir.
Why so big? And I think you just sort of addressed that as you're looking.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a garage, it's going to be more of a hobby shop.
Yeah.
But you can understand the neighbors' concerns that you've got a small property, large garage that's almost over half the size of the house that you're going to put on there. Why not an attached garage, smaller, that
Well,
would fit the house?
the problem with the attached garage is that, you know, you brought up the idea of drainage. The problem with an attached garage is an attached garage would also have to be above the floodplain by 2 feet, which means bringing in a lot of topsoil. And basically, as you noted, that's a small lot. So this lot's going to start, instead of being flat or generally flat, which you just referred to, it's going to be more like a hump, you know, and that's going to just cause all kinds of drainage problems. But if I keep the garage, if I just build the house up and, you know, by definition, garage you have to drive into. So it's going to have a hump to get up in it. Seemed useless, ridiculous to me when I could just detach them, you know, and you know, and get around that, all that grading and all the stuff that would have to happen, putting swales on either side, you know, addressing the drainage problems.
I think the concern with the neighbors is that you're going to put the shop in, your little hobby shop garage, and that's going to be it. You'll never build the house.
Well, as I told the gentleman that was at the house on Sunday, that would be ridiculous. It literally would be ridiculous.
Now, how so?
Because if I built the garage and never built the house, eventually Henrietta would come and tear down the garage and send me a bill for the destruction. That is the way it works in almost every town I've been in.
Is that correct?
Could be. It's certainly potentially correct. You
And they
know,
did the same thing with Honeywell.
you can't have an accessory structure, freestanding accessory structure as a principal building on the lot, so he'd be in violation of the zoning code, and the town could take action of various sorts, depending on, you know, escalating to the point where, in fact, they could order it removed. Have to sue.
So
to do it,
it would be a
but-
ridiculous waste of money and time and.
And it seems like a
would
good
be
incentive for you to build the house.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
All right, thank you.
And I said that at the zoning appeals. As I said, I have the means to build a house. I have no problem with building a house. If that's what everybody wants to make them happy, I have no problem with that. I'm fine.
The last two questions I have fall under being the good neighbor policy. One would be ensuring that drainage from your property doesn't interfere with the land
Yes.
on either side of you. You're prepared to work with engineering
Oh,
to
absolutely.
make sure that that doesn't happen, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Because I know they're talking about culverts and things
I
across
think
the
in
driveway.
one of the emails you sent, Mr. Forwarder, or maybe it was to the board here, but you mentioned doing a swale and you actually said on the west side, but I think you may have meant on the east side because
Well-
that's the low side.
There's one proposed on the east, and, I'm sorry, there's one that was proposed on the east side, that's shown on the plans. My concern is also on the west side where the driveway is, just to make sure there's no runoff that's coming across the road on I think it's Jim's property. You know, that's something we can
Well,
talk about.
that is the high side of the property.
Yeah, looking at the topo from the
Yes.
grading plan, it does look like there could be some cross either way.
Mhm.
We just want to make sure that, you know, again, the drainage stays within the property or on the lot line.
Oh, sure.
So from looking at the drawings, I think they could put a side yard swale in there, easy enough to bring it to the front. Now, the question is, when it comes to the front, where does it go? Because it's very flat in through there, as you know.
Well, there is when I talked to the highway department about the driveway, which I got a permit for, he said it was unclear what the drainage was like.
Right.
But I said, well, because we had such a dry summer, it was kind of obvious where the drainage was because it was, the grass was dead in a line about 3 feet in from the road. And when I dug out for the driveway, I found that gravel bed. So it's a gravel drainage in the front.
Okay, just something we want to look at, do you need a driveway culvert, that type of thing. So that's something we'll have to investigate a little bit further.
Yeah, I don't know where a culvert would go, but
Well, yeah, and there may be something that's there already that we don't know about, that's
Yes.
maybe the stone
It's possible.
goes to
possible. I
someplace.
didn't find it, but yeah,
All right,
possible. They'll know when they're getting ready to do water lines on that street next year. So when they start doing that, they'll know a lot more about the infrastructure on that street than we know now.
right, yeah, we just want to make sure that there's no issues with the neighbors, that's all.
Oh, yeah.
And for you as well.
Yeah, no, I've been trying to, yeah, you don't want to hear. But I have tried to compromise with these guys over and over again. I mean, I even offered the guy, Eric, I offered to rent him for $1 a year, the whole back of the property, because he was using it, like his own yard. And I said, you can use it, I don't care. You keep mowing it, you can rent it for $1 a year until I die. I don't care. And he said, well, how about if we split the cost of a fence? I said, fine. You want to put up a fence? I'll split the cost with you. I have been agreeable to anything anyone's asked me. But yet, it keeps coming back to this.
Mr. Elliott, I have just one last question.
Yes, sir.
There were comments received from engineering indicating that they felt some screening might be appropriate. Have you had screening between your property and the properties next door?
Uh-huh.
Have you had a chance to put any thought into that?
I haven't. I know that at least Eric on the east side, I'm sure he's going to want to put a fence up. He has been the most vocal about everything. And again, I'm willing to split the difference. Like I said, I have been trying to work with everybody.
Would you be willing to work with engineering to devise, if it's possible, to put some screening in there to do so?
Sure.
Okay.
Or if you want to work with your neighbors, Dave, and if they want to put a fence up and you want to put a fence up, we're okay with that. It's a typical comment for us when we have existing or new developments up against existing developments.
Mm-hmm.
We always look at screening and what can be done. But again, if you could just work with the neighbors that like you have been, that would be great.
Yeah. No, like I said, I've been trying to. From day one, I told the building inspector when Kevin was still code enforcement. And when I approached him about the building permit, I said, look, I'm willing to do whatever you want me to do. How do you want me to do this? I'm willing to move. I have no problem. I've always been really cooperative, I think. Just now it's a matter of trying to smooth things over with the neighbors, but I don't know how that's going to work.
Time.
Yeah.
Mr. Elliott, thank you. Appreciate your candor in this matter.
Okay. Well, thank you.
You'll back my time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. McIntyre. The chair will recognize Mr. Page.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I can tell by the discussion that you've received the comments from engineering and you're willing to address those, especially with the drainage.
Yes, sir.
So my question, and again, I appreciate you sharing the story. If you were to get approval for this project, I'm assuming the garage would be constructed first, correct?
Well, considering I have the materials already,
Okay.
and 2x4s, last time I bought 2x4s last week and they were $7.50 a piece.
They've doubled. Yep.
Kind of like going, this may be not the best time to start buying 2x4s.
I don't think they're going to go down. My question then becomes, in law, and I'm no lawyer, but lawyers in the law usually has a great to do with reasonableness. What is reasonable? Okay. So my question is, if you were to gain approval for your project, what is a reasonable time that we could assume you would start the house? Let's say that the garage is complete, or from the time that this approval is given, what would be a reasonable amount of time for you to construct the house or begin the construction?
Well, I'm
of the
going to
house?
be doing a lot of the work myself. It's not, like I said, it's not a big house. It's not complicated at all. There's only about 150 linear feet of exterior wall. So now that it's starting to get late in the year, I had planned on actually having the garage long since done. I don't think it's probably going to be enough time to break ground this year. So I may put off asking for my permit till spring to give me enough time to, to get going. When the weather breaks, we'll start digging the holes for the garage. Then I want to use the garage as a staging area, store materials, and work out of there, where I can put the generator in there and whatnot till we get electric put in. It's going to be subsurface electric. And so I'm thinking that probably within, you said from the time that approval was given by you guys, you're going to want.
Well, let's say from the time you received the building permit.
Oh, from the time I received the building permit to start the house? 6-8 weeks before I start digging holes for the house.
Okay. And the reason, and I need to be honest with you, the reason is that given the concerns and some of the comments, we always, as a town group, we always like to address the concerns of both sides of the issues.
Sure.
So the reason I asked the question was that it might be possible to gain approval from this board, conditional approval upon a reasonable amount of time that you start the house as well. So that's the reason I asked the question, just
Yeah.
in case that came
So
up.
if, as long as it's based on from what I get from my permit, as opposed to because it's going to be obviously a seasonal lag. If you guys decide today or tomorrow or next week, there'll be a seasonal lag until we can actually, if it stays 70 degrees, there's no problem.
Well, and the reason I didn't say from the approval is that, you're going to need a building permit to do the garage.
Yes.
That's really what initiates the project.
Yes.
So, once you get approval for the garage, you get your variances and all that kind of stuff. If we
Now,
put
once the garage is done, it shouldn't, even with, minimal help, it won't take long. It's a post and beam, pole barn construction, so it goes up very quickly.
Okay,
A professional 4-man crew can put up a one this size in 8 hours. I don't do it all the time, so it'll take me a little longer. But I can't imagine it taking more than 2 or 3 weeks.
okay.
And, till it's all dried in. And then immediately start digging footers.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Page. The chair will recognize Mr. Neal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My first question was that, and this is coming off of Coach's comments about the information from Chris Martin. You've read it, you understand it, there isn't anything that you question about it. Is there anything that you have a question?
What are you referring to?
You have
From
this.
this distance? That's a
His
blank
or
piece
his
of paper.
comments. Okay, and you're okay with everything? You don't have a question about anything for this board or for engineering?
From what I've read on, basically the stuff I got from my engineer, which I guess is copies of the communique between everybody. I don't have any questions. Everything seems to be pretty straightforward.
Now, one of the comments was that we would be asking you for a letter of credit. So you are then, it asks for a letter of credit,
Okay,
and you're familiar with that, and you're agreeable to that.
sure.
Okay?
You mean as far as being able to finance the
A
house?
dollar amount will have to be determined.
Yeah, that's determined with engineering. So there's certain things that like those sanitary lateral, drainage that we'll ask for.
Oh, sure.
It's the straightforward items that we ask for in any type of project.
Okay, thank you. So you're okay with everything that's in these comments?
Well, I'd have to see what you're looking at.
Well, that's why I'm asking you.
You didn't receive
That's
the
why I'm
comments.
saying I'd have to see it.
That's why
No, you're
we're asking
me.
you, because have you had a chance to read these and do you understand them? And
These are the engineering comments that
Again, sir, I
Mr.
don't know
Martin
what
would
you're
have sent out.
holding.
Yeah, so these were sent to your engineer. I don't know if you had a chance to go over it.
And Mr. Chairman, I would say if the applicant has not had an opportunity to
okay.
read these, then
wanna give
we
them
ought to think about something.
Yeah, these all look really familiar to me. I think I've read these. Drainage and grading, floodplain, yeah. No, I have read these. Yeah, no, I have no problem with it.
And there was no questions and you have no problems with any of them?
No, the only thing that stood out to me, yeah, I have read these. The only thing that stood out to me on the plans was it said proposed tree, which I was, well, why do we need another tree? And
Oh, we
then
need
here
a-
it talks about possible tree removal, so I think there's some kind of question about whether the tree is valuable and needs a brother. But other than that, I don't know. Everything in here is stuff I read, yeah.
Okay, there's a question that I guess we need to decide here, whether he needs to go to zoning to get an approval for the front stoop or the front
Well,
deck. or-
I actually talked to the engineer about that yesterday. And he was under the impression that Henrietta did not have any problem with the front entry encroaching on the setback. And I said, well, can't we move the house back 4 feet? And he goes, yeah, no problem. I said, well, let's do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think first we would check with the building department. Is it going to be like wooden stairs or is it going to be concrete? I think that factors into the
Wooden.
decision.
It would be wooden. I'm a carpenter.
Okay.
So it would be wooden.
Yeah, so that may be part of the variance. And I know with people, when they want to expand their house and put like a deck in or a ramp, they do have to come before the zoning board for a variance. So if it's
No, this
wood,
is going to be basically, I would guess a 4 foot by 6 foot, and 4 foot by 4 foot. I mean, just basically an entry with side steps.
yeah, I mean, I'll just double check with Kevin Wilson, but I think that fits the structure. So I think that has to be, so I think you're right. I think you may have to push the building back a little bit to make
Yeah,
that work.
no,
Unless you want to
it
go for
just
the
occurred,
variance.
it just occurred to me, you know, once you had mentioned it in your communications. And then I asked him about it. And he said, well, he said, well, some towns don't have that.
Yeah, Every
He said, but I
town's a little
can't find anything
different.
in Henrietta that says you're allowed to encroach on the setback with the front entry. And I said, well, let's push it back 4 feet. He goes, oh, okay.
So that wouldn't be an issue then.
No, not at all.
Okay.
So Chris, we're okay with what he's saying here, that he does not need to get a variance?
Yeah, I mean, certainly, and we'll make sure, once the building plans come in, we'll check with the building department to make sure that it's in the town requirements or town code requirements.
Just because the site plan as proposed does show it possibly needing a variance, you should just put as a condition of your approval that the approval is conditioned upon or subject to any variances the property may need. And then if it doesn't need any,
Yeah, I would like
Doesn't
to
interfere
avoid
with
anything that I have to get a variance for because of the pushback already. You know, I'm, like I said, you know, I want to work like completely within the code. I don't need any more trouble. Just need to, you know, if I need to push it back 4 feet, I'll push it back 4 feet. Right now, it's just an eraser.
Patty, I had a question for you. The applicant has agreed to a number of things here. And in some cases, it isn't necessary to write something down for the minutes, but are we catching all this?
I believe I have, and I can recap what I have thus far after I go. Would you like me to do that?
Okay.
And if you think there's anything of importance that I've missed, by all means, let me know. I can get that included. And also, Heather is recording, so when she does the minutes, I believe she takes mine into consideration, but goes off of the recorded version. So we should be in good shape.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure. Correct me if I'm
Chris,
wrong on that, Heather.
one of the things we need to make our decision on is whether we're meeting code. And for the most part, I'm going to say, square footage, setbacks, et cetera. Are we doing that in this case?
Yes, I mean, this has been reviewed by not only myself, but one of our other engineers, and certainly once we get the revised plans back, we'll take a second look at it just to make sure.
Okay, so you're comfortable with that?
I am.
Okay, and Mr. Mistrella, is there anything that you're seeing that is an issue other than the stoop, which I guess we're going to say may require a variance?
No, there's nothing, nothing jumps out.
Okay, great. And I guess I'm going to say the last thing I just wanted to say is that, what is a concern for the planning board is that you do meet code, and it sounds as though we're meeting code. But one of the things that bothers me is that you have a number of neighbors who are upset about this. And I guess I'm just going to throw it out to you by saying, what are you going to do to make sure that we don't have a continuing issue? And I'm going to say, are you going to build a house that is similar to the other houses in the neighborhood? That you'll maintain it?
That's a good
I'm
question.
going beyond what I normally would ask somebody.
No, this is a good question, because there's a deed covenant that insists that I build a single-story ranch house. A single-story ranch house is unusual for that neighborhood. Most of the houses, I would say 60% of the houses in that neighborhood are Cape Cods.
Including your neighbor.
Including my neighbors. But I am, and they have brought it out and they have said it loud, that I am required to build a single-story ranch house. So that's what I'm building, because I don't want any more trouble.
But it's going to be
I would
similar
prefer-
architecture and similar quality siding and roofing
Vinyl
and et
siding,
cetera.
I would prefer to build a Cape because I would get more square footage for less money. I would prefer it. I forget what the minimum size for a two-story house is as far as footprints goes, but I think it's about a little shy of 500 square feet. So I could get a smaller footprint with a two-story house. But this is not what everyone has insisted on. I'm just trying to get along.
Okay. Chris, just a question for you. This deed restriction or whatever that said that only a single-story building can go in we're going to say is back to the 50s. That's all I need to
No,
own
not
that.
in 80s.
It goes back to the 20s or 30s. but-
80s?
No, 80s. The lady that sold, this is what I understand, the man that built all the houses on the street, or a lot of the houses on the street.
I understand that. We don't need to go down there.
Okay, no, I
What
love
my
history.
point is that there have been houses built since then that are not single-story. Is that correct?
I can't say yes or no, Larry. I've not been out there.
But
There's a
the
two-story.
gentleman's house that is right
Larry,
across
can
the
I
street
jump
is a
in?
two-story. My point is, are we stuck with a single story, or can he really build a two-story one?
I'm going to defer to Dan.
If there's a deed restriction that restricts what he can build, it is not up to the town to enforce it, to abide by it. We go by what the code says he can build. Depending on in whose favor the deed restriction is designed for instance, if it's for a neighbor or neighbors, and if they have standing, they could sue to enforce that deed restriction. But we, as a municipality, do not enforce private deed restrictions and should not enforce private deed restrictions. So as between Mr. Elliott and the town, there's no requirement that he build a ranch. But perhaps as between Mr. Elliott and others,
From what
somebody
I-
else who has standing, it is required, he is obligated to go by that, or he risks being sued by them to enforce that covenant.
It's my understanding that to get relief from the deed restriction, I would have to go to the surrounding neighborhood, the neighbors, and get a release from them. The primary person being Mr. Ferwerda, who bought the house where the woman was living when she put the deed restriction on. From what I understand, the deed restriction goes with the house. So he would be the primary one. I'd have to get relief from them, and if I couldn't, according to my lawyer, then I would have to go and sue them for relief, which, is it going to expensive and might be not worth the time.
Excuse me, so the short story is you're going to adhere to the deed then?
Yes, sir?
And that's all we need to worry about right now, correct?
Yeah.
Mr. Mastrella? Yeah.
I'm all set. Mr.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Neal.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I can
Yes, Mr.
attest
Ecker.
to the fact that there are other houses that have been built in the past 5 years that are 2 stories. So the other 3 projects that I'm aware of that I oversaw as inspection were 2
Yeah.
stories.
Thank you. The chair will recognize Mrs. Brill.
Thank you. And if I just may interject, Mr. Elliott, I just want to make sure the young lady in the audience is okay.
You all right, sweetie? Do you want to go outside and get some air?
Can you please just tend to her for a moment?
Yeah.
I'm concerned. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sweating just because I've been worrying about her.
It's been hot.
Good either.
I think the
It's
air
gonna warm
conditioning is
in here.
off.
No, she's been holding her chest.
Why don't you go and see how she is? And if you need 911, let me know.
Put your mask on.
The board can, we can take a slight recess here. We'll re-adjourn in 5 or 10 minutes.
Thank you.
Hey, Patty, can you move your mic a little bit closer?
We could do the other
Time
ones.
picking up.
Just jump to the extensions and
Okay, I'll wait for Mr. Eckert to return.
even the concept.
He's going to stay out there.
Well, we need him in here. Yeah, we good?
Yeah, okay. All right, Mrs. Brill, would you like to continue?
Thank you. And correct me if I'm wrong, your current residence is number 350, correct?
Yes, ma'am, right across the street.
So I don't know if you've cleaned it up recently, but I was there this morning and looks in very nice shape to me. I can
Thank you.
see from overhead imagery that it looks like you did remove some trees, as you mentioned.
Yes.
And that's all cleaned up. I see some things stored.
Well, the
and
last
covered.
time Mr. Ferwerda, he doesn't really live there. He owns the house, but Sunday was the first time I'd seen him all year. When he was there in January, we had just taken the trees down and there was a lot of wood piled up. Now it's all split, stacked neatly.
Right. I mean, I took pictures when I was there today and it's, quite frankly,
I like my
there's
house.
other homes on the street that probably need a little more
The
conversation than your
house
home.
right next door is a little funky.
And some of the other questions you certainly have addressed and have agreed to conform with and work with the town regarding some of the notes I have taken, if I may. And if you guys would please add on if you feel I should include additional information. I took a note that the home must be built 2 feet above the floodplain.
I actually have planned right now to be 3 feet above.
Okay.
I want to be, I don't want there to be any question. This is the thing, is I want to err on the side of caution on everything.
So maybe just say, Patty, a minimum of 2 feet.
Yep, you got it. Thank you. Prepared to work with the town regarding drainage to prevent any drainage issues to the neighboring properties. Mr. Elliott is willing to put up screening, had discussions regarding splitting the cost of privacy fence, et cetera. Based on time, anticipates digging footers for the garage at this point in the spring.
Yes.
Estimates 6 to 8 weeks from approval to start building the home. And agreeable to the letter of credit.
Yes.
Okay, and I'm going to put the condition on there. Any approvals, condition to approval based on any necessary variance approvals that may be needed. Correct, Mr. Mistrella?
Correct, just because we're not sure about the front.
Yeah, I thought that was, when he drew it, I couldn't understand why he snuggled it right up to the setback. And I thought, well, I didn't read anything in the code about there being a limitation between the garage, do I have to have exactly 20 feet? And so I asked him about that, and he goes, oh, no, I just thought you wanted more room. Yeah. I don't have any problem.
And again, as one of my counterparts mentioned, being a good neighbor. Appreciate working with them, appreciate keeping this property, and then, of course, the new one in great shape, and there shouldn't be any issues in the future regarding the neighbors and the relationships
Well,
there.
let's hope so. I actually thought I'm going to smoke a turkey for Thanksgiving, and I thought, it wouldn't be a bad idea to smoke a couple of chickens or something like that when I'm doing the turkey, and just kind of take it, because the neighbors, I get along with the neighbors on every side.
You're being
especially
recorded.
these
You
two
better
gals.
hold on to it. You better stick to that. Bring an apple pie with you or something too.
Yeah, well, I'm a better smoker than I am a baker.
And I believe that is all I had. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Bro. Yeah, I was out at the property yesterday and didn't notice anything that seemed to miss with the property either. So anything further from Director of Engineering and Planning or Town Board Attorney?
I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
Very good.
The only thing I would add, I think you should, if there's going to be some sort of condition regarding a time limitation for the construction of the residence after the either the start or the completion of the garage,
Is she okay?
I think you should be a little more specific on what that condition
Fair
would
enough,
be.
because he estimates 6 to 8 weeks from approval to start building of the home. But when will approval be based on the building of the garage itself? So can we make a condition based on the completion of the garage and then when the approval will be for the home?
Let's
Or when to
just,
start the
what's
home.
practical for Mr. Elliott? First of all, does he pull a separate permit for the garage? And
No, it's going to be one
Yeah,
permit for everything.
That's why I understood.
Oh, forgive me.
Yeah, so the permit is going to be for the single family or for the garage, single family home and the garage. They'll be all under one
All
permit.
right. So I think that the condition should read something to the effect of the construction of the residence will commence no later than whatever is reasonable, give yourself a cushion from the commencement of the
Garage.
construction of the garage.
I have a possible motion that I've written. If you'd like me to read it and then my fellow board members can comment under discussion?
That would be great.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve application number 20-011, the Elliott Single Family Home for final site plan approval of a single family home located at 345 River Meadow Drive in an R115 zone district. Tax account number 160.13-1-26. Upon condition, and that approval being conditioned on the following items. Conditioned upon receiving a variance for the front setback or moving the structure of the home back 4 feet and conditioned upon starting the construction of the home within 5 months of the commencement of the garage construction.
Before we start, Mr. Chairman, we should probably do seeker.
Yep, thank you.
Always just wanted them to think about it while we're.
Thank you very much,
Okay.
Mr. Page. Okay, seeker review indicates the action under consideration is an unlisted action as per section 617.7C1 VIII. The Henrietta Planning Board, as lead agency, has determined that the proposed action described below will not have a significant effect on the environment and that a draft environmental impact statement will not be required. The action under consideration is a site plan application by David Elliott. It is an unlisted action and will not require a conditioned negative declaration. The purpose of this application is for final site plan approval of a single-family home located at 345 River Meadow Drive in an R115 zone district. All relevant areas of environmental concern were identified. Evaluation and examination were carefully made in relation of the existing conditions versus the proposed site improvements. It has been determined that there will be no adverse environmental effect as a result of the proposed action. I, James Gruner, therefore, make the motion that we make a negative declaration and that the chairman be authorized to sign the statement of environmental significance. Do I have a sufficient second?
Second.
Who had that, Mr. McIntyre? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Neal.
Chris, I was wondering if I could just get a clarification for something that Kevin Wilson had provided us, and which is that the structures had to be built within a flood-resistant construction requirement.
Right.
I haven't run across that before.
Yeah, I mean, there's different ways to construct a home in a floodplain. As Mr. Elliott said, he could build them on piers, which isn't common, but it's certainly something they could do. Or he could build it masonry block, but maybe has some floodgates or something like that, so the water could go in and out, that type of thing. So yeah, there are certain requirements for the building component of it. I'm not an expert on it. That's why we have Mr. Wilson. But I'm sure when you submit for the building permit, you'll just have to adhere.
He's explained to me the size of the floodgates, and, you know, it's basically 1 inch for every square foot of floor of a footprint.
Right, because you want the water to come, if it does flood, you want the water to come in and out. You don't want it to, rise up. Right, exactly. Under the building.
Okay. So he's agreeing to that as well.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome, Mr. Neal. Mr. Page, would you like to read
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry, Mr. Eckert.
No, is this open for public comment? I see chats on the Zoom.
No.
No, I mean,
So-
typically, site plans, unfortunately, are not open to
Yeah,
public comment.
okay, good. That's
I
what I was
mean-
just making sure.
Thanks for confirming.
Yep. I didn't know if they had anything to do with it or not, but I see the red button on the chat.
Oh, you have good eyes.
I see red. I can see them. I don't know what it says.
Excuse me for just.
She's doing much better.
I don't want to do it.
Please, yes, please.
Do you want me to
check.
read it again?
Yes, could you read it one more time,
Right from
please?
the beginning? Okay.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to accept application number 20-011, Elliott Single Family Home for final site plan approval of a single-family home located at 345 River Meadow Drive in an R115 zone district, tax account number 160-13-1-26, conditional upon receiving a variance for the front setback or removing the structure 4 foot back, negating the need for a variance, and conditioned upon starting construction of the home within 5 months of the commencement of the garage construction.
Mr. Chairman, I just have a quick question. As it was, the motion was read, do you agree with that then? Do you have any problems with that?
No, 5 months.
That's what
is-
we're going to
5 months
approve.
is plenty of cushion. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Page, I'm sorry, did you have in your motion conditional subject to proper variances as needed?
Yes.
It was in there, thank you. Okay. Do we have a sufficient second?
Second.
Mrs. Brill, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The motion is carried. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Phew.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Lady.
Thank you very much.
She's doing okay.
Okay, next item on our agenda, we have a couple of discussion items. Middle Road Mini Storage. Middle Road Mini Storage is asking for a 6-month extension of time for application number 19-010. The project was originally approved on May 14th, 2019, and we extended, gave a 6-month extension on April 29th, 2020. Do we have does board or chair have a motion, please? The chair will make a motion to extend, I'm sorry.
Just a discussion item.
It's just a discussion item, but we still have to vote. So, motion to approve the extension?
Mr. Chairman,
It is something we have to vote on.
Yes.
Discussion item, right?
It's a discussion item, but it's going to be a vote to either
We have to give them
approve or
the
My first
deny
point
the
was,
extension.
is there anything that needs to be discussed?
You tell me.
Like I've got
Oh,
a question.
I can open it up. Yes, Mr. McIntyre, do you have a comment?
Is there anything that would bar this being an approval?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, I'm not sure if he's going forward with the project or not, but, you know, he can ask for an extension.
recent communication, if I may, recent communication, I think what we've been on is that he is still trying to find a buyer, and COVID has hindered that. So I think he's still looking. I thought it was done, and apparently there's been some communication.
It's not for lack of trying or because of the events.
That's my understanding.
Yeah.
He's still trying in good faith to
I
complete
think
this
so.
project.
You know, but I think if the right buyer came along and he could sell the lot and to somebody else for another use, he would do that as well.
And nothing, he's not proposing any changes to the site or any changes to the site plans?
No.
Okay.
Chris, there was 2 mini storages being proposed on Middle
There were.
Road. Is this the one closest to the thruway or the one at the tree company?
Closer to the throughway.
Okay,
The
that's
other
what I
one is
thought.
the Salty Melon,
Yep.
and that one is not going forward as well.
It's not.
This is the one that was under the power lines.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay, yep.
We've got
Thank you.
that confused many times, Manny.
Any other comments? No. We have
Mr.
a-
Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the extension.
Thank you, Mr. Eckert.
Second.
Mr. McIntyre, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The motion carries. Second item, Highland Crossing Business Park, requesting a 6-month extension for application number 17018. This project was originally approved on January 9th, 2018, reapproved on March 26th, 2019, with a 6-month extension granted on April 29th, 2020, located at 350 Calkins Road in a planned commercial development zone district. Is there any discussion on this application
Same
or request?
question, Chris, any issues in relation to this project that might have changed or?
No, I think they're still trying to find the market for it. Obviously with COVID, that's extended things, but as you can see, they've gone for numerous extensions. My understanding, Steve, it's still going forward, but they just got to find the right tenants.
Okay. No negatives.
Just the cost of construction materials.
Yes.
The cost of construction materials is just skyrocketed. Yeah.
The chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve extension?
Mrs. Brill, thank you. Have a sufficient second, please.
Second.
Mr. Eckert? Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Extension is granted. And last item on the agenda tonight, discussion item, Garber Collision Center. Planning Board to review the building elevations for a building addition located at 3890 West Henrietta Road in a commercial B1 district. Introduce yourself, sir, and if you haven't signed in yet, please do.
Good evening, Max
Good
from
evening.
LaForce Builders, here just to go over the elevations. I think you guys all have copies. I brought a copy for you. Basically, all we're doing is we're basically filling in between the 2 buildings that are in now. It's going to be a detail shop for them, so.
Yeah, so it looks like it matches your existing architecture there and,
Yeah, all the
Everything
materials are going to be the same. It's going to blend right in.
yep,
Yep.
good. Any questions or comments from the board?
Mr. Chairman, I only have one question. I'm looking it up now as we speak. I just wasn't sure if there was an existing punch list on this project from prior.
No, I believe that project has been closed.
Okay,
The previous project has been closed.
okay. Well, that was the only question I had.
Okay. Yeah, it's just a discussion item. I think it looks good. It's going to blend right in and no vote necessary, right, Chris?
No, I think it's pretty well said. It's
Yeah.
going to match in with the two other buildings. Building materials, Max, are going to be pretty much the same.
Yeah, it's gonna be block and ethos for the exterior. Yep.
When would you like to start work?
What's that?
When would you like to start work?
Tomorrow?
Well, we're off tomorrow, so you may have to
Oh,
wait.
maybe, can we do Thursday then?
As long as you got your building. But we just did sign off on the site plans. And actually, I got them right here, so Max, don't go away after the meeting.
Okay. Perfect.
But yeah.
I
as
think
far
we've
as-
already submitted for plan. I think they're in to you now, I think, right?
Yeah. So depending on when they came in, there's usually a week or two lag, but as far as engineering wise, we're all set.
Great. Oh, it looks good. Thanks for coming in and presenting this evening.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Sticking around for
Discussion.
that.
The only other question I have then, Chris, is off that site lighting off the backside. I know there was a problem before, not with this project. I mean, it was just with where they were directed from the residents.
And I think it was, the lights were adjusted. I don't think it's an issue now.
Yeah.
That's certainly something we could take a second look at.
Let's just make sure we're taking a look at it on the new site plan.
Yeah, but that complaint came in, about 4 or 5 years ago, and I haven't heard anything since then.
No, I just didn't want to add any more.
No, the lights that are on this building are either out the front or the back, but they're not directed towards the residents, and that was
Yeah, we're
the
not
issue with
adding-
that
yeah.
one light.
Not adding any lighting to that, to the backside? Yeah.
It might be a wall pack or something like that, but
Well, and I think I think the wall pack is what was the problem.
it'll be
Yeah, and the
but it'll be the down type. It
Yeah, and the
won't be-
detail on the plan shows that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a wall pack, but it was a Merc vape that was sitting up there. You know, they wanted
You can't
security.
get those anymore.
What's that?
You can't get those anymore.
No, I know, but, and that's why it hasn't been, I don't think, a problem. That's why I just didn't want to make it a new one. I didn't want a new Stark LED or something else. Just wanted to make that aware of that, of the review process where that was an existing problem from before.
Right. No, we're all set.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Max, don't go away.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to approve?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Page.
So we have a pretty thick agenda for the next meeting.